All right, now I'm going to show you those four basic cuts with simple side stepping. Simple side stepping means that you're turning in place, rotating with your spine as the center of the axis. And it's used for power generation. It doesn't get you off the line of attack. A long side step would do that. But I like to start this warm up with a set of simple side stepping in double force. And this I find especially important in the learning through comparisons concept, in that you're dealing with different weapons, especially if it's a weapon you're not used to. You want to have that left hand on the right wrist or on the longer handle of the longer weapons for more control. It gives you more speed in a fight. You know, a weapon, let's say, that weighs 1.5 pounds, swinging with one arm, you have less control and less speed to move it abruptly at speed than you would if you have two hands on it and both hands generating force. In this case, what's important is both hands are helping to control the weapon. I know a couple of people, many decades in Philippine martial arts, they switch over to another weapon. They use their straight blades, they go to kukri, they swing, and they stop the blade where it would not touch their left hand with a straight blade, and they end up nicking themselves with the kukri. Or another guy was practicing, demonstrating with his left hand, he's right-handed, overswung on a target and cut his right hand. And this is with a blade he's used to, but he's a right-hander. His left hand is not as good. So it's a good place to start, even though you lose some reach with double force. Have the warm-up start with double force because it gives you control. So with a Bowie knife, what you're worried about on these four diagonal cuts is, where is that point, right? You swing a stick in Philippine martial arts, and very often you'll touch your left arm in some way, right, with the back of the stick. But if you do that with a Bowie knife, either a sharpened swedge or that point may end up popping you in the left shoulder. So that's why I like to start with double force. So real simple. I'll back up so you can see the footwork. From guard, which is one of my guards, it's kind of like a low ready on handgun. Elbows are close to the ribs. Both hands are out in front of you. The tip is just below eye level, so it doesn't interfere with my vision at all, and I can see what's going on. So you simple side step, you come up and cut one. The point is pointed at the opponent. The blade is just outside the outline of my body, so if I'm blocking a weapon, it's blocked outside the line of my body. Two, same idea here. My elbows are close to my ribs, so I don't overextend. I still have that point pointed towards the opponent, and I'm less likely to have a problem going out of bounds. Easier and faster to recover. Three, uppercut to here. Go just above your eye line so the blade does not interfere with your vision. Still trying to point towards the opponent. And four, same idea. This side, you're pointing towards the opponent. The blade is above your eye line so you don't interfere with your eyesight. Also with these, all of these gives you the opportunity to do a secondary thrust after the cut. So a good place to start. Let me show you on the other weapons. Okay, here we are with the kukri. Again, you'll draw, I like this low ready as our start position, especially with the heavier tools. It gives you more control, and you're aware of where that blade is at all times. One, because you have your left hand on your wrist. The other is because that blade is in your visual field. If it's up above your head, let's say, it's out of your visual field, and you have less feedback of where it is. So I like to start to warm up with the blade here. I feel it's a little safer, especially if you're transitioning to a weapon you're not familiar with, you didn't grow up with. So let's try those four diagonal cuts from a simple side step. So anyway, simple side step, come up in one, and this time the palm, if you look at my thumb, it's the line of my fist is the same placement as on the Bowie knife. That's pointed still straight at the opponent, but because of the curvature of the kukri, it's off on the side. Because the kukri is a cut or hack-centric weapon, not a thrust-centric weapon like the Bowie, my secondary cuts from here will be cuts as opposed to thrusts. So anyway, 1, 2, 3, 4, back to guard. And notice when I come back to guard, I'm turning with the cutting edge, I'm not placing with the flat. So you saw in the kukri, because it's single-edged and it's curving away from me, I can get away with, if I want to, I could touch my shoulder, index off my left shoulder for a backhand cut. And you can do that if that's the only tool you will ever use, you grew up with it, and that's all you're gonna have on you as an edge weapon, that's fine. If you're gonna possibly use different weapons, then you kind of want to keep that safety factor throughout all of them. Now, especially, here's a Volpace training tactical tomahawk model. There's on the actual tactical tomahawk I have, there's a spike here for glass breaking. So you could see how, you swing this and you come back up. You don't want to pop that spike into your shoulder. It's kind of, so if I just move my arms, the limiter on a forehand is my forearm or my elbow touching my body, and it can't go obviously through my body, right? The limiter on a backhand is the end of reach with my left hand if I'm keeping my elbows in, pretty close contact of my ribs. So I'm pretty much staying within the range of motion, if my hands are connected as I do that. And that's why I like to do this with double force, because it's safer for beginners. Now, when we go to a heavier axe, I have a hatchet that I think the head on it is like 2 pounds, pretty heavy. It's that Condor, I think it's called the Greenland pattern. That's pretty heavy. So if training with this is a cold steel axe gang trainer. This is heavy plastic, very thick. This probably comes closest to, a real weight training tool, plastic training tool compared to steel. Still not as heavy as the real thing though. So here I'm not trying to stop at the end of a cut. It's that head is all the mass is way out here. It's going to be hard to do. It's hard on your wrist. So in this case, I will come and let it flow back up. So there's my 1 and 2. Now when I do 3 and 4s with axes, I don't like uppercuts. Unless you got a, 5-foot long Dane axe with a 1-foot cutting edge, I'd rather not do uppercuts. So our 3 and 4 with axes in my Learning Through Comparisons course is horizontals. And if I had an overhead shot, I could show you there's actually not a true half circle here. It comes and then the momentum drags the hammerhead or the axe head back a bit, and that's where I get stoppage. That's how I stop and slow down a momentum without just doing muscular force on it. I kind of let the force dissipate by moving backwards. Then I have that left hand and the pectoral muscle involved to help slow it down and not stopping on a dime, but simply slowing, decelerate under control. And I'll have less of a tendency to bop myself in the head with this. Even this plastic thing, you do not want to get hit in the head, on the side of the head, temple, anything delicate like that with one of these things. So here's how I'll use a axe that's heavier, with a very heavy head, and you don't have the capacity to easily stop it in midair. Fluid 1 and 2, fluid 3 and 4 horizontal. So diagonal 1 and 2, horizontal on 3 and 4. And there's that feeling of momentum carrying it back to stop the force and dissipate the force on the horizontals. Where the diagonals, you have gravity. It falls down, and then once you've complete the cut, it turns and carries up, and gravity rising up, plus your left hand being here helps dissipate the force and slow it down. Then you come back onto that side, and you're back on a chamber on this side of the body. Let me show you on a tomahawk. This is a axe head cane from cold steel that's normally about hip height on me. I cut it down so it has a 22-inch handle, the same as my camping tomahawks, like my trail hawk. So from here, I'll go 1 and 2, goes diagonals, and then 3 and 4 there. So I get the same idea, and now, because I can put 2 hands on the handle, I do, and I get much more control. Because this is a long handle, I know where it is. I can index off my shoulder with this. I'm a little more comfortable doing that than the one-handed tools, because I have a lot of control with that back and forth motion of the right and left hand. So I will, with a two-handed weapon, allow it to touch my shoulder, but it's not impacting my shoulder. It's just decelerating, and just to the point of almost stopped, I'll let it touch my shoulder, simply so I have indexing and I can have better accuracy. As I explained in other videos, you get distance to a target by focusing with binocular vision. If you can add other parts of your anatomy to that mix, for instance, the pommel, in your visual field, your brain calculates, okay, pommel to target, and then if you're touching another part of your body, in this case, the left shoulder, okay, left shoulder to target, so you get 4 points of visual indicators or tactile indicators to the target. Makes it a little more accurate. So that's an idea with these different tools, showing you just with simple sidestepping in the learning through comparison. Okay, my last video I spoke about simple side steps. So let's show you that on a target. So this post here, usually what I'll measure up is body perpendicular facing the target. My fist is here, and then from there, that's my distancing. So I'll sidestep. There's a 1 cut, there's a 2 cut, 3 and 4, right? So basically what I'm doing is, I'm not trying to reach and extend out to a far target. I'm basically throwing a force field around myself of just counteroffensive cuts, you know, where I have 2 hands worth of power in double force. And again, I like to start here because I don't want to spin and hit myself with that point. If it's a weapon I'm not used to, I might be used to a longer stick or even a longer sword. You start getting to a shorter weapon, those index points where you may touch your body that is safe on a stick can be a bit of a problem if you do it with a weapon you're not used to with a different design. So then from there, and then there are 12 of these in the set in the Learning Through Comparison series. So then I will do the extended reach. So this is going to be, you know, at full extension with just the fingertip. Now from here, I'm going to extend by turning the back heel and just cutting with that top edge. Basically, I'm aiming with the point of percussion, which usually on most Bowie knives ends up being opposite where the swedge begins. So you're on guard. Now you're just cutting 1, 2, 3, 4. So your forehands are extending into target. Your backhand is covering your retreat. Your forehand is extending into target. Your backhand is covering your retreat. And the footwork on that is simply extension or turning the heel, the rear heel on the forehand cut, and going and retracting it on the backhand cut to cover your retreat. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And you notice as I do this, my weight shifts forward, but I'm not placing all my weight over the right leg because I'm so committed to that. If he comes in to cut my right leg, it's hard to get it out of there quickly. Where if I'm simply turning the heel, then I can move that right leg a lot faster than if I had 100% of weight on it. You know, I'm simply going from a 50-50 weight distribution to maybe 60-40, and it's a lot easier to get off the line if there's only 60% on it than 100% on it. That's my thinking on this footwork. Okay, another one I want to show you of the complex footwork patterns is the diamond inside a box. It's the easiest way to put it. So think of a diamond pattern or an open diamond pattern with a rectangular box around that. And that starts like this. There's the front apex of the diamond. I'm on the back. I'm cutting on a 1 line. There's my reverse triangle into the right side of the diamond. I'm coming in to cut. I'm getting a little bit away from his right side where he has more reach. And I'm cutting in order to deny him center line and to give me good access to center line. So from here, I step in 1, and then 2 is a floating step. You'll see this in the 5-attack subsystem and in some contradas, where I'm stepping in just enough to get my left leg to the center of the diamond. So I've reached with that, I have equal reach now. And then 3 and 4, I'm on the back line. Let me show you that again. So 1, I step to the right-hand side of the diamond. 2, I bring my left leg forward just enough to get equal reach with my 2. My 3, I'm stepping on that sideline of the box. There's my uppercut. I can retreat from here as much as necessary to countercut him. He's coming with a 1. If I do get him, or some limb is out there, either right hand or left hand, then I'm going to come in on an X or a scissoring hit to cut that limb while I'm going parallel with him, so that if someone was standing here, you know, facing me with the shoulders, I'm basically walking past his shoulder. So I make that cut, and I want to be able to get behind him and escape, as opposed to just crashing in on the guy. And then you'll see this footwork used a lot in contradas, where you're fighting a larger, heavier opponent. So 3 footwork variations just on the 4 basic cuts with a Bowie knife from the Learning Through Comparison series. Each of these have come from a set of 12 attacks, and the footwork will continue on that theory in the rest of the 12. Thank you guys. Train hard, but train smart.